So they may have
Okay.
this inadequacy feeling when they face with any challenging issues or any unfamiliar challenges. They might have this feeling that they're not meant for this, and but
Okay.
people don't realize that it might take some time to adjust to a new level, adjust to new things which have not done in the past, where they always have a self doubt. They are like a persistent feeling of inadequacy about their success, or will they be able to do something that is expected out of them. So uh, and also when we talk about this, not surprising, but women reports to have even higher rates of this imposter syndrome. So when they step into leadership position, because definitely there is an underrepresentation of women in leadership, especially in the tech roles. He was working from home, and it was his dad's birthday, and while he was on a call, his mom called him for a cake cutting, but he couldn't go because he was busy with his work. By the time he finished his work at midnight, everyone at home were asleep, fast asleep.
Hey guys, welcome to Better Engineering and Management podcast. Today we have Lucy Deletta joining us to discuss various mental health issues that are faced by software engineers and what can they do about it. Lucy, please welcome to the podcast and give a small introduction about yourself.
Thank you, Pradeep. Hello, everyone. I'm Lucy. I'm a technical recruiter by profession with experience in the recruitment space, primarily in the tech industry. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with a couple of major tech startups, and now I'm part of a global tech hiring at Amazon. I'm helping the team to bring in talent across different geographies. I hold a master's degree in psychology and human resource development and management, which I believe helps me in understanding people and aligning their skills with the right opportunities. I'm super excited to share my experiences from the dynamic world of tech recruitment with everyone today.
Lucy, the first question that I wanted to ask you is, since you deal with a lot of engineers, right, particularly software engineers, what are some of the major mental health challenges that you see software engineers facing, and what are the prominent issues that you see they often, because they would be discussing it with you also, right, oftentimes. So what are some of the major mental health challenges that you see?
Sure, I can talk about that. So I think most of the times we see a lot of people, dealing with depression, anxiety issues, especially when it comes to tech industry. Reason being, people are all after staying relevant, right? I mean, the first thing that comes to our mind when we talk about the challenges or mental health issues that software engineers are facing is burnout majorly. And there are several reasons which is causing these things. Especially people are worried about what is going to happen in the future. Will the automation industry, especially when AI plays a major role here, when new things, new technologies come into place, will they lose their job? Or like there is always that anxiety that runs in their mind. Especially when we talk to a lot of engineers, we get to know that they're worried about these things, especially AI related challenges, or these mental exhaustion or stress, which ultimately leads to burnout. So I think some of the common problems that we usually see are these, like depression, anxiety, burnout especially. And I think, yeah, these are some of the things that I have come across so far.
Okay, and so basically what you're saying is people are continuously worried about losing the job, and new technologies are coming and all those kind of stresses are coming,
Right.
and they are worried they may not be able to kind of learn those technologies in the right time, and someone would who would know those technologies would kind of replace them.
Right.
And but tell me one thing, Lucy, like
Mhm.
in which age group do you see maximum anxiety with regards to job loss in all those fields?
I would say that starting from the senior, I mean junior level. I would say junior level to mid level,
Hmm.
especially have these kinds of anxiety and worries, because we see a lot of because of the market fluctuations. We see a lot of companies laying off people, and not necessarily everything is related to AI, but there are certain times when because of bad market conditions, companies decide to let go of people. So this particular problem is mostly worrying the junior to mid level people, Whereas when it comes to seniority level, mostly when people move from an IC role to managerial role, there is a lot of anxiety that comes in when they take up a lot of new lot of new challenges, or a new role, especially a management role, which requires a lot of problem solving and dealing with a lot of pressure, and also managing a lot of people, including they have to do their own work. I mean, whatever IC role that they were doing, they'll be taking care of those work as well as taking up new challenges in their work, so which are pretty much critical to business. So I think these are some of the major things that I see. I mean, in my past experience, I have come across these kind of set of people. Different, they have different anxieties at each level. So I would say
Okay.
that junior to mid level usually worries about job loss because of these market fluctuations and AI and everything coming in. So yeah.
So what I understand is the junior to mid-level people are worried about job loss scenarios more, and that is the cause of anxiety. But the burnout is common across everybody, whether it's
Yes.
junior or whether it is senior or whether it is mid-level. So that itself is the source of one more kind of a mental health challenge.
Right.
And as you mentioned, when the person goes from IC to, let's say, a management position like, engineering leader, manager, or director, those kind of roles, uh, expectations change from him essentially, right? Because till now he was only supposed to deliver some kind of, let's say, software development work or whatever he specializes in. But now he has to be responsible for kind of driving the growth of entire team. He will be held accountable if the team doesn't deliver, or if the product roadmap that has been planned doesn't kind of flourish the way it was supposed to be. All those kind of pressures will be there. So you are saying that those are different kind of challenges that one starts facing when one leads into management, right?
Right, you're absolutely right. So that transition from a software engineer to management is definitely filled with a lot of opportunities for growth, but also comes with its fair share of mental stress. Like, when we talk about when software engineers transition into management position, the shift of responsibilities, as you just mentioned, that the expectations can bring about a whole new set of challenges that often contribute to mental stress. So engineers who excel in individual contributor roles are often advanced to management level, right? So
Right.
they are assessed or evaluated based on the technical expertise that they have delivered when they were an IC. So this is not
Mm-hmm.
just for software engineers. I think it's for every role that especially corporate roles that we see. Every role, this is the same scenario. However, like managing people definitely requires a different skill set, right? Like we have mentoring or conflict resolutions and performance management, and more to it,
Mm-hmm.
that that
Right.
is not dealt by a IC. But when it comes to manager role, I think balancing that technical know-how with the soft skills like empathy or communication or delegation, it could be super challenging. And we see as managers, engineers are would be accountable for their team's performance and the project timelines and their deliveries as well. So that particular pressure could be too much for certain people to handle. So these pressure to meet business goals while also managing a team, can be overwhelming for sure for most of the people. So apart from this, we usually see new managers also, like when they transition from IC roles, they may question whether they are cut out for leadership. So they may have this inadequacy feeling that when they feel when they face with any challenging issues or any unfamiliar challenges, they might have this a feeling that they're not meant for this. And but people don't realize that it might take some time to adjust to a new level, adjust to new things which have not done in the past. So this is also very common in, especially when we talk about the managers. So we see there was a study which was conducted by KPMG sometime back. I think it was around 2020 or something, where they mostly talk about how people have this imposter syndrome, where they
Okay.
they always have a self doubt. They are like a persistent feeling of inadequacy about their success, or will they be able to do something that is expected out of them. So uh, and also when we talk about this, not surprising, but women reports to have even higher rates of this imposter syndrome, so when they step into
Okay.
leadership position, because definitely there is an underrepresentation of women in leadership, especially in
Mhm.
the tech role. So this is very
Okay.
common, and that is, I think, the reason for burnout or anxiety in the managerial level could be this. This could be one of the
Okay.
major reason for that.
Okay, what I understand is basically once you go into management, right, you have this doubt whether I'm cut out for this role or not. Particularly for first-time managers, it may be even higher
Exactly.
because you are still testing yourself, right? That I was a
Right.
developer, I was very good at it, but as a manager, can I kind of contribute? Because now you are not responsible for only yourself, but for the entire team, and it kind of it also entails a lot of relationship building,
Yeah.
listening to people, and kind of if there are conflicts, you have to resolve those conflicts. These things can start taking a toll on your own mental health.
Exactly. Yeah.
In a way, a manager is not responsible for only his mental health, but the mental health of entire team also, right?
Right.
Because all the people who have some issues will come and report to him, and
Correct.
if he
Yeah.
doesn't know how to deal with it, in a way, I think you have brought up a good point because it's not necessary that just because someone is very good IC will
Hmm.
also become a great manager, right? Because he may have some kind of attitude issues, or he may not be open to communication, right, as much. And when the pressure comes for delivering, right, because what also happens a lot of times is a lot of managers, right, since
Hmm.
they are not good at delegation, they start doing extra work themselves, right, like doing a
Yeah.
lot of coding themselves,
Yes.
and a lot
Yes.
of meetings they would start attending themselves instead of asking someone else to attend, because they simply don't, they are not confrontational in nature, they are kind of soft spoken. On the other hand, there are other kind of leaders also who are very, I would say, let's say, tyrannical in nature. Then
Hmm.
they will start pressurizing the team a bit too much because
Yeah.
they want their record to be good, right? So
Right.
that pressure will start coming on the entire team.
Yes.
It's a
Absolutely.
very tricky situation in a way. And so, what do you think? Let's say someone who is stepping in the management role for the first time, what are the things he can do to be ready for it and
Hmm.
ensure that his mental health doesn't get kind of worked up because of this
Yeah.
added responsibilities?
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's very critical. I think when people move from an IC role to a managerial role, it's very important that they should. I mean, necessarily if they have those skills or not, but to understand whether they are cut out for this, there are
Okay,
different ways of there. I mean, I wouldn't say ways, but there are different methods of understanding your personality or like
okay,
your managerial skills especially. So when we talk about in a psychological perspective, there are different aptitude tests or like a test which really evaluate what kind of leadership qualities you have, what type of leadership skills you have. So I'm
right,
not very sure that every company utilizes that, but there are companies
okay,
which gives a lot of importance and value for such things as well. And especially in these era, there are a lot of companies which prioritizes mental health over anything. So when
okay,
I think it's necessary that people take their mental health seriously, and they value such thing which will actually promote good leadership qualities. I mean, definitely not everybody would be meant for certain type of leadership skills, but they can inculcate those things using maybe they could attend many courses which will really
okay,
help them to understand what is expected out of them when they're stepping into a
okay,
leadership position. And definitely, I think when we talk about on a personal level, everyone, right? I mean, people across whichever personality that person is from, but they should be able to realize that it takes time for somebody to get used to a new thing. Like if you're stepping into a new role, it could be anything. If you're trying out a new maybe a dress or something, also just for an example,
mm,
sometimes you won't feel comfortable, right? But it
right,
takes
right,
some time to get used to things. So I think people shouldn't you know put themselves into a lot of pressure, thinking that I should be able to do. Sometimes we provide a less timeline for ourselves, that I should be able to do this within this particular time, but we are human, so definitely it takes time to get used to something new. There is a transition that is happening, and it's not a small transition. I see to manager is a like a lengthy period of time. I think that might take time for us to adjust to things. So I think it's very
okay,
important for us to realize that fact first, that we need to give some time for ourselves to
okay,
get used to something new. And I think manager's manager also, like the super boss also should understand that this person has come, become newly a manager. So I think they also should provide them enough time, provide them enough support as and
Okay.
when required. I think that, when we have that support system, I think that helps us a lot to cope with
Okay.
anxiety, cope with our stress level. So
Okay.
I think that support system is very crucial for anybody, any level of promotion that happens, any level of
Okay.
new project. It could be not necessarily promotion, but a new project that you're taking up, something that you've never done. So if you have that
Mhm.
support system, if you have that confidence, then I think definitely you should be able to manage that. And
Okay.
we shouldn't put ourselves into a situation where we have nobody to support or nobody to back up, and we take everything on our head, even if we are unable to manage whatever is there in our plate right now, taking up too many things just to make sure that I am able to do much more than others. I think that particular thinking could put your mental health
Okay.
into risk. So to avoid that, it's very important that we should have that self realization that what is important at the moment and how I can achieve the certain goal. So I think planning is
Mm.
necessary here, that how you're going to do
Okay.
with what kind of help you would need. So and ask out for help. I think seeking help
Okay.
is very important. Again, that is another very important thing, I would say, because
Okay.
I think there are certain kind of people, including me. I feel that about myself, that I sometimes I'm reluctant to ask for help. I'm reluctant to, even though I have so many things, I sometimes don't say no to things. So I think
Okay.
when the time when it is required, I think it's we should call out for help, or we should seek help from others around us. I think
Okay.
that could definitely help us to cope with stress in a better way.
Okay. It's a very interesting, this is a very interesting point because you see what is happening here is the manager is kind of taking too many things on his plate, and then he is kind of competing with all the other managers, let's say, because he also wants, let's say, one more promotion, and or let's say he just wants to kind of finish his work. But
Right.
since you don't say no, the number of things that you are kind of putting on your plate is very high, and that will kind
Yeah,
of exhaust you.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
you also mentioned that a support system can be very helpful if your bosses, the managers or the manager, are accommodating and
Hmm.
they give him some leeway, like give him some chances to fail, let us say, on certain things, let's say small things, and kind of support him, like, hey, even if you kind of you're taking some time to learn, it's okay, we are there with you. That kind of support system can, if you are getting that kind of environment, then a lot of stress goes down automatically. And then that manager will also kind of do the same thing to his reportees, right? He will also give them time, and that kind of culture can be formed where nobody is kind of excessively pressurizing the other person. They understand that everyone has limited resources, limited capabilities. Let's give everybody some time and some support so that he can learn, and then he can perform even better, probably, right? And you also mentioned that when we started, like with the advent of AI and automation, right? Lot of things that we are learning, right, that's becoming redundant, and that is also a major cause of worry, right, particularly in the, let's say, mid-level engineers or junior level engineers, right? If they want to kind of get rid of that kind of anxiety, because anxiety can be very dangerous, right? It can immediately
Okay.
transform into depression, as we were just
Right.
discussing, right?
Right. Right.
What are some of the baby steps they can take which will kind of maintain their level of confidence and kind of also keep the level of fear down in mid-level engineers particularly?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's a very relevant question. So, I think I started with saying like something which is like staying relevant, right? So, I think one of the major problem or issue that we have currently among software engineers is, especially when as I mentioned, AI and automation disrupting their traditional roles. So,
Right.
tech landscape, especially, we see it evolving very quickly compared to any other industry, like with new programming languages. It could be frameworks or tools or whatever is coming in the market. So engineers, they need to continuously upskill to stay relevant. So in the
Okay.
race of this, I think they lose out on a lot of things. So adapting to these changes, that could definitely lead to a cognitive load that they have to take on a daily basis, especially when it comes to decision making, like choosing maybe frameworks or whatever they are managing, like managing deployments or sprint pressures that they have. So all these are slowly leading to a lot of mental exhaustion, and these prolonged mental exhaustion or stress, this ultimately leads to burnout. And it's a major problem that we find in today's world, especially in the tech industry. So finding that balance between work and personal life, that is challenging here. So
Okay.
like long hours or tight deadlines, like constant problem
Right.
solving and performance, like they I mean everybody is in a race for to perform better, and of course to for growth in the tech industry. So it becomes difficult to maintain a healthy work life balance. So
Hmm.
understanding the cause and identifying the warning signs, that is very
Okay.
important to to take
Okay.
preventive measures, so that it doesn't reach to a critical stage where you're unable to do anything about that, right? So because people always have the thinking that either keep up or fall behind. So that's the
Right.
exact thing that is happening right now in the I mean overall in the industry. So that constant fear of their role becoming obsolete, or they becoming less
Okay.
competitive in the market, all these things. So
Okay.
there is definitely an increased pressure on upskilling or reskilling constantly. So when we do a reality check, it's very important that to understand how to manage these things, manage these
Okay.
anxiety, or like depression, or like whatever they're going through, burnout or anything. So
Okay.
we I think it's high time that people should establish that clear work life boundaries, especially to prevent the stress and maintaining that balance, especially in a remote or hybrid work setup. As I would say that especially on the remote or hybrid work setup, it's because we don't know when we are starting and when we are ending our work. So it just goes on because there is no boundaries. So I think
Right.
it is absolutely necessary to define that start and end time for your workday, and stick to them. Sorry.
Okay.
Stick to them.
Understood.
And that that digital detox, avoid checking emails or Slack maybe after work hours, that creating a shutdown ritual, I would say, so that
Okay.
you have that that when you're starting or when you're ending your work, so that you have rest of the times for your personal matters. That
Right.
that is very important, that you keep you know work, I mean whatever work that you're doing, you should plan it out in such a way that you don't exhaust yourself. Take breaks, okay? I mean the first thing that I would say is that like micro breaks. When we see people just sitting in front of laptop, and then they just go on without breaks, without having proper meals in the right time. Take breaks, take 5 to 10 minutes break every hour to stretch, or there is something called as Pomodoro technique, which is basically you work for 25 minutes and then you take a 5 minutes movement break. So
Okay.
that's to
Okay.
break that cycle. We don't sit at one place and then we don't get up, right? So that leads to a lot of problem. So stress
Okay.
is actually, it's not something that we usually think it's I mean the signs that we see maybe could be that that somebody, I mean maybe the manager is doing micromanagement, so you are unable to manage things, so that could
Hmm.
badly affect you. So that is a common thing
Okay.
that anybody could know, that that could lead to stress, or could
Okay.
lead to disinterest in the workplace, or like dissatisfaction, job
Okay.
dissatisfaction. But there
Okay.
are certain things which we don't notice, right? Which we don't
Okay.
don't notice, and then it I mean it reaches to a stage that leads to a lot of problem later, could lead to even depression. And then there are a lot of cases where we see people are unable to take that mental stress, and they the last option that they find is just to end their life. It could lead to
Okay.
that stage as well, that prolonged
Right.
mental exhaustion that we see. So
Okay.
to avoid such things, I think it's very necessary that we take small steps when we see there is something wrong, when we see a disinterest in work, or like maybe
Hmm.
workplace, or the team that you're
Hmm.
working in. You should take that call to do something about that. So when I say do something about that, one thing which I mentioned earlier was having that support system. So there are companies which really have this counseling sessions and all, which I think everybody should utilize. That people always have this thinking that people who seeks help or counseling or any sort of help, they are weak. But that's not the case. People who seeks help are literally, they are strong enough to share their problem and then try to figure out what they're going through and then find a solution for that. So when companies are offering such things, especially in the work setup, I think it's necessary that people should use that support network that is available. And there are different other ways also to build support network. So if not in the company, you could talk to a friend. Even that, sharing things also makes a lot of
Mm.
difference. And
Okay.
talking about it, like sharing concerns, it could be with your manager or colleagues or a professional counselor or somebody
Okay.
outside, your friend or anybody. And also mentorship, like seeking mentorship is one of the greatest, I think, thing that anybody could do. In I mean, the current company that I'm working in, Amazon, there is a mentorship program, which
Okay.
where somebody there, I mean, people can sign up as mentors and people can sign up as mentees as well. So
Okay.
mentors, they will be mentioning about what are the skill set, what are their skill set, and how could they help. So when
Okay.
I, as a mentee, if I go and search for a mentor, maybe I'm going through, I mean, maybe I feel that I might go into burnout. So I want to talk about my about the stress that I'm going through, how I'm gonna
Okay.
tackle those things. I want to talk to somebody, so I just go to that application and then I just see through who can help me out with such things, and then I just send a request and they accept and we start talking. And that depends, if I want to have a session on a monthly basis, I can do that, or a weekly, like however it is. So I think that that network that we build can play a major role here. And talking to somebody, sharing that, getting mentorship from somebody who can really help you with that. So all these things, I think, really help us, or anybody, be it a software engineer or anybody, to actually deal with certain stress, so, to a certain level.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What I understand is you should always seek help, mentorship, because they will know something. And let's say you're stuck into some technical problem, or you don't know what to do with current, let's say mental anxieties. Both the things you can communicate to a mentor, and he can kind of guide you, he or she. And another thing that you rightly mentioned, right? Like people are being very competitive sometimes. They don't want to lose job. They kind of want to get promotions, and in that race, they are oftentimes exhausting themselves with too much work. In fact, I know many instances where people have kind of lapsed their leaves and they have not taken leaves, like a huge number of leaves are left and the entire year goes by, and then that leaf gets, those leaves get lapsed, and then because they are continuously focusing on work, and they sometimes are not realizing how it can kind of, what kind of pressure it is putting on their mind. They they are, as you mentioned, they are getting burned out, they are having focus problems, and it can also lead to disinterest in the work, which is very difficult to deal with later, right? Because if you don't feel interested in the work, if you don't feel motivated, you will not contribute, and it will become a cycle again, right? Where
Exactly.
your manager will again start putting more pressure on you because you are
Right.
not kind of
Performing.
contributing enough.
Yeah.
And since you are already burned out, you may get more and more frustrated with that
Right.
those kind of conversations. So,
Right.
so it's best to seek help early. I think that's the
Right.
thing. If you think
Right.
you are getting into this zone where you are getting burned out, don't wait for it to kind of, to exaggerate and all those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take help timely, seek somebody whom you know. If your enterprise or company where you're working already provides a setup where you can kind of get some counseling, take it right away, don't be shy. Or as Lucy mentioned, right, you can take a break, take small breaks also. When you're working during a day, you plan your day in such a way that you are not continuously in the front of your computer. Because one typical thing with software engineers is they spend a lot of time dealing with the computer, right, staring at the screen, which also kind of increases a lot of their stress, right? Lucy, correct me if I'm wrong anywhere,
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
right? Because if you're into sales and marketing or customer management, right, you're meeting with a lot of people, there is a sense of freshness in that, right? But as a software engineer, or generally, you have teams, of course, where with whom you interact and all, but the work that you're doing doesn't really involve too much teamwork, maybe sometimes, and you can kind of, if you are an IC particularly, you can spend enormous amount of hours just sitting in the front of computer, staring at your screen, and that can also slowly raise your stress levels. So, so I think, yeah, take micro breaks as well as take big breaks. That is, take leaves if you have leaves
Yes.
left. Don't kind
Yes.
of let them lapse. And on a daily level, what else can somebody do to keep their stress levels down? You mentioned this Pomodoro. technique, right?
Pomodoro, yeah, correct.
Uh, yeah. And what
Yeah.
else can people do in general? Like,
Hmm.
let's say there is this team bonding activities also, which often gets mentioned, or outings, right, from the company side. What are some of those things that will actually help, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I think there are companies which promotes team outing and everything, but there could be. I think I would mostly talk about how what you can do on a personal level. Reason being, there are people who are not very comfortable hanging out with the same set of people every time.
Mm,
I have come across a lot of people saying that same thing. We don't want to do that. So maybe they're interested in something else. So I think incorporating movement, so physical activity or hobbies that really interests you. So as I mentioned, micro breaks really helps, and Pomodoro technique also really helps. Like you keeping a set of time, and your I mean. That is also taking care of your health in a way, right? You're be sitting, and there are a lot of people who get back issues, or like a lot of other problems, health related problems, because they are sitting in front of a in front of the computer or laptop for a very long time. So and also, other than that, regular workout. So we whether it's yoga or walking or strength training, like whatever it is, I think it's very important that people, especially in the corporate world, they should do regular workouts. That really makes a lot of difference. And also
okay,
hobbies and non work interests, which literally helps us recharge our mental energy, I would say.
okay,
So do something that really interests you. It could be like gardening, it could be like something hobby, like swimming, or like
okay,
maybe painting, or something that relaxes your mind. I mean, people
okay,
really enjoys, there could be people who enjoys watching a movie, or listening to music. So whatever calms you down, I think you should incorporate that in your daily routine, so that it's not that you're always doing the same thing, and just being in front of your laptop and computer. So do something different, which is apart from work, that could
okay,
balance
okay,
out things, I would say. And
sure.
what I mentioned earlier, like understanding the science, that depends
Mm,
upon your, what kind of a intrapersonal relationship that you have. So when I talk about interpersonal things, it's like you're working for long hours, you have that constant pressure from manager, but there are also
okay,
signs which we don't we think would not lead to burnout. For example, like lack of control or autonomy, like people who have little control over their work, or like project decisions, maybe they think that they're not much relevant, or they don't take any decisions for the team, or any deadlines, or literally feel sometimes powerless, or which could
mm,
actually lead to frustration. So people don't really connect this with burnout, but eventually
mm,
even frustration is could lead to burnout. So
okay,
understanding it at the right time and then taking a step is very crucial here. So
okay,
a digital detox, as I mentioned, as you mentioned rightly, that taking long breaks as well. I think I mean, most of the people have enough leaves in their kitty. So I think people should utilize that. Just sitting and then working, that's not going to help in any ways. I think everybody will have target. There could be companies which even give unrealistic target as well, but I think everyone should put their health first more than anything. So doing your work, meeting your target is important. Not saying it's not important, but health is equally important. And I think when you're putting your health at risk, that could lead to a lot of worse problems. So I think one of the example that I can share, one of my friend who was a software engineer, so the story which
okay,
I think recently happened. So I was talking to him after a very long time. So he was going through a very tough time. So when I say tough time, he was working from home, a well paid job, a very good company, very smart guy, and everything was going good, well settled and everything. And then suddenly he just felt like leaving his job. That is because I think during the COVID time, he was working from home, and it was his dad's birthday. And while he was on a call, his mom called him for a cake cutting, but he couldn't go because he was busy with his work. By the time he
okay,
finished his work at midnight, everyone at home were asleep, fast asleep, and his dinner was kept on the dining table with along with a piece of cake. So that hit him really hard, and that's when he decided to leave that job, because he felt that moment that that job is not meant for him. So suddenly, when reality hits, when not necessarily it has to hit in the reality has to hit in the moment you feel something. It could take some time.
Mm,
Maybe
okay.
he was going through the same thing since a very long time, but when he
Mm,
understood that he's not even able to spend his some time with his parents on their birthday, that
mm,
that really hit him very hard, and he decided
okay.
to leave his high paying job, and now he's
Mm,
managing a business at his hometown with his parents. But I'm not sure how many people could relate to that, but when that stress takes a toll on you, and gets prolonged for a very long time, suddenly it hits you that that you wasted a lot of time, that you were not able to do a lot of things that you wanted to do. So it's always better to not reach at that stage. Take small steps that at the right time, that could really help you to get out of that cycle, and then definitely would help you to manage everything on a balanced level.
uh, Lucy, that's very interesting, and I think you have put all the correct points because you know you work for happiness, right? And if you're
Right.
not able to give any time to your family, to your relationships, right, what's the point of all that? So yes, you are right in that sense, and all the people who are watching this podcast, they should take note that if you're not kind of watching the early signs, you can go into even more issues, more kind of complexities, and later it will become even more difficult. Whatever Lucy has suggested here, they are all very important. Take micro breaks, take long breaks, connect with people, keep on watching, go for counseling if needed. Whatever support is present in your community, take that help. Connect more with people. Make a strong security system in your environment if it's possible, as much as possible. Delegate more. Don't try to do everything by yourself. All these things will eventually help you, and then you will be productive for a longer period of time, right? And then you will enjoy the work. You will feel motivated. Otherwise, you can kind of get disinterested into work also. And
Exactly.
Lucy, thanks for this conversation. This was a great conversation. I think there are very important points that you have mentioned that should help all the people, including mid-level engineers as well as senior people, like engineering managers, directors who have taken a lot of responsibilities and kind of they don't know how to deal with it. So all these points should help them. Thanks for coming to the show and sharing all this information. Anything else that you want to show, and then we can wrap up.
No, I think just a closing note to everyone who would watch this, that take care of yourself, because your mental health is just as important as the code you write. So, mental health, that comes first. So, I think that everyone should prioritize on that. And thank you so much, Pradeep. It was lovely connecting with you. And I think, thank you for this opportunity. Though I don't have many experience, many years of experience, but whatever insights I had, I was able to share with your audience. So, I hope the viewers find this discussion valuable and take away some practical strategies from this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucy. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.